Brewing Network.
All right, how we doing? Come on. All right. All right, my name is Mike Bristol. This is my wife, Amanda Bristol. We drew the short straw, so we're going to do the first couple of minutes. Bristol Brewing Company is located in Colorado Springs. If you're from outside of Colorado and you've never heard of it, that's okay. We don't distribute any beer out of Colorado. If you're from Colorado and you've never heard of it, then we have a problem. So I'm going to, the focus of this is to talk about community and beer. And so I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about the beers we're tasting, but I can't help but say something. So first beer we have is our Automaton White IPA. Nice coriander, orange peel, wheat malt. We hop that with, help me Chase, Citra, Mandarina Bavaria. Nice beer. I think it checks in at about 5.5%. So, but let's get on to community, and we'll interrupt to talk about beers as we have them. I'm going to turn it over to Amanda to talk about one of our community initiatives that we thought folks might be interested in.
So, how's it going out there? I just want to say really quick to preface this is we've been talking, and really one of the primary things when you're working with community, first you have to have really good beer. And so we've discussed this, and the two things really are great beer and community. And they have to go together. The beer's got to happen right first. But I think as many breweries do, in the beginning we started donating we sponsored the local volleyball team. We provided beer to festivals. We did all of we answered pretty much yes to most of the requests we would get for beer donations, because it was part of our business plan. We've always wanted to just support the community and be a good citizen and do good things with our business. And but it became a little more meaningful for us in about 2006 when we started our community ales program. And what we do with that is we've picked 4 nonprofits in town, and we brew a beer for each one, and it's a beer kind of related to what that nonprofit does. And then we donate 100% of the proceeds from that beer back to that nonprofit. And it's not just about the money for us, but it's also about the exposure for that nonprofit. We really wanted to kind of let everyone know through our own channels what these nonprofits are doing for our community themselves. And so the 4 that we do, there's a local farm. It's one of the last working farms. One of the last working farms in the Pikes Peak region. And we brew. It's famous for giving away pumpkins to school kids. And we brew a pumpkin ale using the pumpkins from the farm. We all go pick them. All of our co-workers and any fans that want to join us pick the pumpkins with us, roast them, gut them, and we use them for the brew. And then all the proceeds go right back to that farm. We also support a local arts foundation. It's called Smoke Brush, and we do a smoked porter for them. We also have a local sort of open space that we brew a Pinion Nut Brown Ale for. And in fact, that beer has actually, the funds from that beer have gone to build a new visitor center for that open space. And so it is just so fulfilling for us to see our work going into something, bringing something to fruition for the community. It is so satisfying. It's so much better in our eyes than just the money that you get from brewing beer. When you can do something good for your community, that just makes all the difference. And then our last one is for a fundraising campaign that happens in Colorado Springs every December, and we donate all the money to that. And so then it actually goes to several different organizations, and the people that come into our pub and order the beer can actually vote for which organizations within that campaign that they want to donate $1 from each pint to. And then all the proceeds besides that go back to the campaign as well. So I'm going to let Mike talk about another aspect of our community involvement.
Yeah, we've found, and I failed to mention that we've been in business for 22 years now, and we found that over that amount of time, there's always opportunities to do really great stuff. And sometimes you have to sort of decide which ones to do and which ones not to. But we had really a neat opportunity about 5 years ago. We were looking for space. We were growing out of our current facility, so we were looking for a new facility. And as it happened, there was an elementary school that was built in 1916 in our neighborhood that closed. And so we started exploring the option of expanding the brewery into that elementary school. And we looked at a lot of other options as well, but that one just sort of seemed to fit our personality. It seemed to be kind of a natural for us. And one of the things that was exciting for us was we could be part of something bigger. So it's not just the brewery there. We have partners that have, there's a coffee bar, there's the gymnasium we do concerts in, we have a lot of nonprofit events there, we have a restaurant down the hall, the pub, we have a distillery tasting room in the building. So it's really, the whole concept of that was to be a neighborhood gathering place, because one of the things that's great about beer is it is a social thing, and if we can get people off the couch and away from the TV and the internet, and we can get them to come together to talk about stuff that's important, then good things always happen. And so we were very excited to be able to have this opportunity. And if anybody here is local, I encourage you to come down and check it out. It's a work in progress, but it's been a lot of fun. So that may not sound so community oriented because we needed a space anyway, and that's true. A lot of the things that brewers do for community also enhance the business, and we're not really afraid of that as well. We like to be successful. So although the facility has allowed us to continue our growth and to remain profitable and sustainable, it's also really jump-started a renovation or a reinvigoration of this entire neighborhood in Colorado Springs. So we're not the only ones by any means, but this project jump-started a lot of really cool things going on in the neighborhood. So this was a neighborhood that was kind of on the downside. It wasn't one of those neighborhoods that had gone so far over the cliff that you didn't want to walk around at night. But it definitely needed a little bit of love. And so it's been really exciting to see a lot of younger people move in. It's a neighborhood where they can afford housing. The energy level is really nice. It's an old neighborhood, had the oldest operating neighborhood association, which had gone defunct. And it was one of the first things we did when we started this project is we encouraged them to get the neighborhood association back going so that we were able to really have a voice with them about how we did this thing. So, am I taking up too much time? So I guess that's another example of something that we sort of stumbled upon, but most of the things that we do are extensions of our personality and what we enjoy and what we think are important. So this was a great opportunity for us to kind of start that process. So that's just another example, and I think I'm out of time, but I should mention the second beer. Are we on World Peace Death Ray? Oh,
yeah, we're under the. I think we're under the Hot Pig IPA. Is the second one we're tasting here. 7.2% ABV. It's dry hopped with Amarillo, Citra, Simcoe, and Centennial. Are the big four there? Yeah, little grapefruit rindy. Enjoy. And this is Lisa, my partner, and she can go into a bit more of our community story.
Hi guys, how are you? So we're pretty young. We're the new kids on the scene, so I'm going to give you a little bit of our background on how we got started, where our name came from, and what we're trying to do for our community. So 2 years ago, I was a corporate consultant in a very buttoned up conservative job, working with some people that weren't always very friendly. And on the weekends, or when I was home or not traveling, we would foster animals. So I would come home for, say, 2 weeks, and we would take 3 kittens and take care of them and then give them back afterwards. And while this was going on, my partner Joe was brewing for Wicked Weed, and we can't say enough great things about them. They also medaled today, so we're very happy about that. Yeah. So we were talking one day, and I kind of said, wouldn't it be great if we could open a brewery, make a bunch of money, which doesn't actually happen, and then use that money to open a sanctuary? And this light bulb went off, and we decided that we could actually open a brewery dedicated to animal advocacy. So at its core, that's what we started to do. We've been brewing since December, so just about 10 months. In that time, we have adopted out over 100 animals from our business alone. We work with about a dozen nonprofits. We've raised probably around $7,000 or $8,000 in our first year for charity. And then that whole concept of animal advocacy and sanctuary has kind of grown into something bigger than that, where we strive to be kind in our community. And the reason I brought up my corporate career is because it pretty much taught us what we didn't want to be. So we really tried to just do things that are kind, and we love crazy ideas. So, for example, every Saturday morning we do something called Yoga with Cats. So we do a yoga class in our brewery, which is pretty popular these days, but a local chapter of the Humane Society brings in cats and kittens. They're all for adoption. I have a picture, if you guys want to see after this, of somebody doing downward dog with a cat propped on top of her butt. It's pretty awesome. That happened this morning. We also do a free community meal to the public every Sunday, which I personally cook, so we'll make food for anybody that needs it, no questions asked. We ask for a donation if you can afford it, and what we do with that donation are what we call kindness bags. So we have this concept of a kindness wall, which is outside of our brewery. It's just a line where people can leave coats, hats, gloves, scarves, etc. We take that money from the meal and we create essentials bags. So they're basically toiletry bags for people that maybe can't afford those things. Bug spray, sunblock, deodorant, facial wipes, you name it, and we hang those things outside. The double win for that is nobody who is down on their luck needs to come into a place and say, hey, I'm hurting right now. It's take what you can, leave what you can, no questions asked. The same thing happens with the community meal. We do 2 animal adoption events every week. And those are also, some of the proceeds from those events go back to some of the different groups we work with. And finally, in our home, we actually have a micro sanctuary, which is completely paid for from our business. So we're not currently a nonprofit. We are working on that for next year. But we currently house 14 animals, I think the count is today. That number fluctuates quite a bit. Yeah, so we have 5 cats, 2 dogs, a pig, 6 chickens. We're building a goat pen. We're building a turkey run. Yeah, so again, not nonprofit. All of the money from our brewery goes directly to basically buy cat litter and food for a very large pig. So yeah, that's us. So it really started out as an animal focus, and then it's developed into something that I think is a bit more altruistic in an entire community kind of a sense.
Well, I just want to say that I think what you guys do is a perfect example of what we've been saying about how what you do for the community needs to be an extension of yourselves. You need to believe in it, or else you can't be authentic. You can't go, I think adopting cats is a really cool thing. I think I'll just do that. I mean, you have to have a passion for it.
Yeah.
It has to matter to you. And this, the open space that we have brew a beer for and donate the proceeds to, it's right outside our back door, and we use it all the time. We wanted to support it, So to me, that is just the basis of having a good community focus. Is it has to be something you believe in strongly.
That could not be more true. I think that if we weren't serious about it, people would see right through it. It would be completely transparent. So we always say we were going to make beer and save animals anyway, so why not try to do something on it? We can save more animals and make more beer now. I didn't highlight too much of the beer. Joe is fantastic, and that echoes something Amanda said earlier, which is you really, really need to love beer, making quality beer. We kind of look at it as 2 tracks. So we have our beer track, which is fundamental to us making any money at all. And then there's the altruistic track, which kind of enriches us and keeps our spirit going of doing some good in the world.
I was going to mention the next beer. I think we're pouring the World Peace Death Ray. That's our Imperial IPA. It's not terribly over the top. I think it checks in about 8%. We're using Centennial, is it Simcoe and Amarillo? See, I gotta check with the brewers to make sure I don't forget these. We utilize our really cool new toy, well, not new anymore, but our German hop gun with this beer to get some really nice aroma out of it. So, but I also wanted to have Amanda explain a little bit about what this series, the 3 beers that we're tasting here, are part of a series that also relates in a little bit to what we're talking about.
Well, it's just that the 3 beers we brought for tasting tonight are part of our Forgotten Genius series. When Mike said, "Hey, the brewery, wants to do a 4-pack," I really handle the marketing for the brewery, and along with my partner Matt. But I think we just felt like it was important because we are so involved and so committed to our community. We wanted to do a series that really brought out a theme from Colorado Springs, and so Nikola Tesla actually spent some time in Colorado Springs and had a lab there. Actually sent the city into a blackout at one point because of his experiments. But and so we thought it would be fun to do a whole series based on some of the things he did in the Springs, some of his efforts and his inventions, and it's just so fulfilling to wrap our products around local causes and local themes and the local story. And so we had a lot of fun with this series, and we have a scavenger hunt going on right now in Colorado Springs where you have to find different lightning bolts related to Tesla and his lab and things he did in Colorado Springs. And it just again, I go back to authenticity and how important it is to relate back to where you are, and being local is so important to us. And so another thing really is that Tesla was into doing research and had his lab and he had his inventions, but he never cared that much about making a ton of money from them. He wanted to make the world better, and we feel like we're kind of trying to do that with our brewery. I mean, where would we be if we just had a business that didn't really help anybody, if it just made some money? And we've got to have that as part of our DNA. We have to have that element. And so we felt like we kind of related to Tesla on that. Tesla died in poverty, unfortunately. Hopefully we won't, but
yeah, we're hoping to avoid that.
But I mean, it's just kind of this altruistic, working for the betterment of mankind where you can, on your little scale that you try to do. It just makes it easier to go to bed at night and wake up in the morning.
All right. As we're getting a little short on time, I want to make sure that everybody knows, if you just raise your hand, if you got any questions, I'll come over with a microphone. You can ask. I have a question for you guys myself. I run a tap house in California, and we're trying to develop a program right now where Sundays become kind of our charity Sundays, where we help local organizations. I hate to be the one to ask the bottom line question, but money and the bottom line is always an issue, and especially when you have partners and everyone has to agree. And one thing we struggle with is an event that is worthwhile for the organization, because if the percentage of profits they get is too small for the amount of work they have to do promoting it and things like that, we're concerned about that. And then, of course, we have our own operating costs to look at. So I'm curious how you guys come to those conclusions and decide what has to stay with the business and what can go to the charities or the different organizations.
Yeah, I'll start with that because that's a great question. I mean, I think you can be as altruistic as you want, but when you're out of business, you're not doing anybody any good. So I think to be truly sustainable, you have to do that. One of the things that the Community Ales program was kind of interesting because that was an entirely new line of beers, and so we were able to sort of keep rolling on all of our regular beers and the other series beers that we have, and we almost looked at this as additional, as if it. I mean, there's no question that it cuts out some of our other sales, but it's incremental volume and it's incremental profits that we're able to give away without say, hey, all of a sudden we're going to give away 50% of our flagship. That doesn't make any sense. So I think, and it's the same with events. I mean, I feel like if you have a slow night and you can bring in twice as many people and still make the same amount of money as you would have on the slow night without those extra people, and give some money away. From a financial point of view, that's not bad, you know. So that's kind of one of the ways we look at it.
Well, I would just add really quickly that when we started our community ales program, especially, I can't tell you the number of people that would come up to me and say, wow, you guys do such great things for the community. And this is the first thing they would say. And it just builds loyalty back in the community, which is priceless, really. I mean, you can't buy loyalty. You can't market loyalty. I mean, you build it by being authentic and being true to the place that you live in. And people notice, and it has made a huge difference for us, and we didn't even mean for it to. It wasn't a marketing ploy. It was just who we are. I'm sure that's who you are, too. I mean, you really...
Yeah, and I will add one thing just from a logistical perspective on that. Like, for example, we did Ales for ALS, so 100% of that beer's proceeds went directly to ALS. That was a huge chunk of income for us, so they let us pay that money to them in fractions, so that during a slow season, we're not writing a check for $5,000. We're breaking it up into like every 2 months or something like that. So logistically, that actually helps quite a bit. But I would agree to what Mike said. Literally, when we do events like that, we do double the business we would have regardless. So we're still making money.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is you can start pretty small in some cases. I mean, when we started the Community Ales program, we had no idea kind of what that could turn into, and in 10 years, it's over $400,000 that we've donated back to these, which we've never had any concept of that. So I think you start somewhere, and as you grow, you're able to build that, and like they both said, people love it. So.
And we're very much doing it to become a part of our community as well. We care about them, and we want the different organizations. Another question I have, if no one wants to raise, here we go. We'll do that.
How do you say no to an organization that does not fit your business model?
Yeah, there is a lot of that, and the nice thing about being the only owners is that we can kind of decide based on what we think, not only what we think fits the business model, but also sometimes just what our philosophical point is. Because I can guarantee you, as soon as you start doing this, you'll have more requests than you can possibly handle. So that has to be built in. You have to be able to say no at some point. And you know, it's hard, but we just try to be polite about it and say, hey, it doesn't really align, or it's outside
just say
of
it's
the
not
way.
a good fit. You know, it's because that is so important, because you're trying to be authentic to who you are, and if you're supporting, you know, causes that, I don't know. We've always, one of our guiding principles is that beer should be fun. So we try not to take sides too much and do a lot of controversial things unless it's something we really believe in, because it should just be fun. Beer should be part of relaxing and part of enjoying life, and not bringing, not like causing, what's the right word? Being rabble-rouser, unless it's something we really, really, truly believe in. And so we've got to be able to say, it doesn't really fit with what we want to do.
We also came up with a pretty, not rigorous, but because we started getting asked all the time as well, we came up with an application process. And actually that vetted about half of the people asking for donations already, because they had to go through a real process of what is this for? How is the money being distributed once you receive it? We wanted to know that it was really going to the right place, and that actually eliminated a lot of people asking already. We didn't have to say no.
Yeah, and that's a key.
Any other questions tonight? We are just about out of time, unless, I'm sorry.
So are you completely out of corporate America, and what that had to be a huge adjustment on your life?
It was the best adjustment I've ever had to make ever. I quit my job. I adopted a pig. I went to Haiti. I colored my hair purple. I got as far away from it as I could, and then never looked back. So. Yeah.
All right. Well, I really love this idea of beer for community and not just hanging out and drinking together as a community, but really giving back. And I think we see 4,000 breweries out in the hallway here. So that means that so many local communities have their own brewery. And if you can do what you guys are doing and become more a part of the community and give back, I really appreciate what you're doing. So thank you for your time with us.
Guys.
And you can wrap up if you'd like.
Oh, I just wanted to say we have trifolds that explain our business model and have our social media links. So if you guys want to read more about what we're doing, just come and grab me afterwards.
We got one more question if you don't mind. Okay.
Hey, good evening, guys. My name is Scott Nutt. I'm with the Northern Colorado Hell Attack crew, and we have a booth at E32, and we have been selling T-shirts for the Wildland Firefighter Foundation. And I got to say that the whole foundation is super impressed with the way that the Beer Fest has supported wildland firefighters as a whole. So I just happened to wander in. I met one of the Bristol fans who's a military pilot flying C-130s, dropping retardant on fires. And he's like, hey, go over and check out Bristol. So I stopped into Bristol just a few seconds ago, and he's like, no, he's over in that booth over there having a conversation. So I looked on the board here, and it has a community involvement, and I thought it was perfect. How the Great American Beer Fest is truly a community support network, and I just wanted to give my 2 cents in. Thank you guys so much.
Very nice.
Yeah, and I would be remiss if I didn't tell everyone that the booth is right there. Go try the beers. If you got any questions about them, I'll be around. Chase, one of our brewers, is here. So thank you.
All right, thanks for all your time. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us.
Thanks for having us.